Hello, everyone, and welcome to Capes, Cowls Masks, the show where we uncover the world of soups and science fiction. I'm your host, Jake Hart. I'm a podcaster, a sound designer, and a writer for Fresh Take Hub. And as always, I'm joined by my fellow co-host.
Hi, everyone. Tom Gapper, your beloved comic book shogun and future doctor. Decided this is the new CCM campaign we're starting, seeing as we've had the news that Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall are leaving Doctor Who. We thought it only right that we try and make me the Doctor. I think I have the gravitas and, the depth to play the role, plus I'm ginger. I'm ginger. The Doctor's always wanted to be ginger. That's canon, Jake. I know you don't watch the show, but that is literally canon. He keeps regenerating, isn't ginger, and is like, why aren't I ginger? So... And we've had English doctors, we've had Scottish doctors. Let's have a Welsh doctor.
That's true.
Let's do that.
We need a Welsh doctor. Yeah, this all started when we were just discussing who should be the next doctor, and I was just like, Tom, you should be the next doctor. And then
to which I was like, of course.
Yes, of course. I'll be the Dalek. And what did we decide on, Dave?
Well, Dave wanted to be a Sontaran, but I believe he should be someone from Raxacoricofallapatorius, just because it'll be fun to keep saying that word, Raxacoricofallapatorius.
I don't even want to try to pronounce that. I have not watched the show enough to try to pronounce that word.
I've watched it too many times, Jake. Too many times. It's probably the only nerd product that I've watched more than Cape shit. Like, I've watched every Doctor Who episode that is actually, still surviving.
Have you even, watched some of the original stuff from...
Yeah, I've watched... No, that's what I mean. I've watched, everything from Classic Who all the way up to New Who. I even watched the Paul McGann movie. I'm one of the guys who occasionally listens to the audio plays the Big Finish do. Okay, that's how deep a fan I am. So, yeah, as viewers can tell, I am very excited about this new Doctor Who news.
Well, you know what, Tom? Maybe we can plan a Doctor Who episode one day. And
one day, that would be nice.
Because it's science fiction. That's what we cover that on the show. We cover all sorts of pop culture. So we could.
I'm sure the Doctor has worn a cape at some point.
Yes, I'm sure a cowl maybe as well. One point.
In fact, he's definitely worn a cape in the past. What am I saying? He's definitely done that.
I'm also sure he or she has also worn a mask and a cowl at some point as well.
Ooh, and there was that Christmas special during Capaldi's tenure that literally had a superhero in New York.
Well, there you go. Solved.
It was the worst Christmas special, but it exists.
Oh, Christmas specials. God, I love them. Anyway, this is our weekly news show. Even though we haven't done one for about 5 weeks, there's just been so much content coming out, what with Loki, Black Widow, the Suicide Squad, so much that we've, it's just too much time. There's not enough time, I should say, to do weekly news and cover all this content. So we've just been doing our best. But anyway, back breaking down the news, and, we're going to be talking about Why the Last Man, Deadpool updates, the Suicide Squad box office numbers, so a lot to discuss. But before we get into all that, Tom, how are you, man? What are you up to? What are you reading, watching? What's going on in the world of Tom?
Well, before we started the podcast today, I did manage to catch up with the first episode of What If. I
have not seen yet, so...
I know. So I won't say anything, but all I will say is, wow. I was very impressed by it. I would definitely say maybe not the strongest debut episode of all the Marvel stuff to come out. I definitely had a couple of small, teensy little issues with it, but overall, I thought it was very strong, and everyone should watch it as soon as possible. Jake, you should watch it as soon as we're done today.
I am.
Yeah.
I will be straight on it.
Get some Jeremy Wright in your life.
All I know is that it is the Captain Carter episode, is it not?
It is, and it's fantastic. It was great hearing some of the old cast again. I don't want to say too much about it because obviously I want you to watch it, but yeah, so I've been watching that. I have been in my massive mammoth Marvel read-through, which all listeners must be aware of by now. I finally made it to the end of War of Kings. It's taken me a long while. I got there. I'm taking a break from Marvel Comics at the moment now to read Game of Thrones because after reading that many comics in very quick succession, you need a break sometimes. But I recommend War of Realms to everyone to read. It's one of the best Thor series, and you may as well pick up all of Jason Aaron's run on Thor and Mighty Thor as well. Unworthy Thor. Maybe pick up Original Sin. The naysayers may say it's crap. I actually loved Original Sin for what it was. I just love the orb, crazy eye guy, fantastic. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. Jake, what have you been up to?
Well, I will say for the listeners out there, regardless, you should be picking up Jason Aaron's Thor because, well, one, it's fucking amazing. And we spoke about this, Tom, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to say it. I think this is probably my favorite run of Thor in Marvel's history. And that took something for me to say because I love Walter Simonson's run as well. Like, that is fantastic stuff. So, yeah, people check it out. And if not for anything, for the upcoming Love and Thunder. It's not going to be a direct adaptation, but as Marvel do, they're going to pick bits from that storyline. Obviously, Jane Foster as Thor, Christian Bale coming in. So yeah, people, if for that, people should read that. But as for myself, what have I been doing? I've been once again, I've revamped my martial arts sort of marathon, you could say. Just been going through quite a few of those for an upcoming project which is coming out very soon. So keep your ears and eyes peeled for that. But yeah. And then I've been doing a lot of reading, actually. I've been catching up a lot with Star Wars The High Republic, some of those books. It's getting really interesting now with the second wave that's just come out. Like that, The Rising Storm. Really, really good book. An amazing sequel to Light of the Jedi, which came out earlier this year. So, yeah, I've been getting catch up with that. And obviously, my most anticipated film of the year is Dune. What with that fantastic trailer that came out a couple of weeks ago, I've started to reread through the Dune saga, so I'm now towards the end of the third book, Children of Dune, and my God, it's still the greatest, in my opinion, still the greatest piece of sci-fi literature I've ever read. It's just absolutely phenomenal what Frank Herbert was able to do, and the only thing I would say that matches it is probably something like Lord of the Rings or I haven't read the books, but I gathered it's, as you've mentioned, Tom, Game of Thrones as well, or I should say a Song of Ice and Fire series. So yeah, I would say only those, but if you haven't read it, man, you got to check out these books. You can wait for the movie, that's fine as well, but man, if you're into sci-fi books, these are the ones you should be picking up.
It's actually interesting, dear listeners, because me and Jake actually made a deal where once he's finished Dune, he's going to be reading A Song of Ice and Fire. And once I finish reading through A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm going to be reading Dune. So me and Jake are going to become some of the biggest nerds on the planet by the end of the year. It's going to, we're already there, I think. I can see the merch on yourself, Jake. I know you're a massive nerd.
Yes, we should. We could even do a book club.
Ooh, that would be cool.
That would be cool. We'll put a pin on that.
Is Dave invited?
I don't know. Yeah, I know he's definitely hasn't read Dune. I am not sure if he's read the Song of Ice and Fire books. I'm unsure.
Oh well, we'll have to ask him, see what books he recommends.
Yeah,
get the book club going. Yeah, cool.
Definitely. I'm actually really excited to do a book club. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, let's get into the news then, because we got quite a few things to cover.
Tear up page 1. Run that photo instead. Headline: Spider-Man, hero or menace? Exclusive Daily Bugle photo.
So our first story is a glorious trailer. Now, this project has been in development hell for years now. Like, the only other maybe project I can think of that's close in development hell was maybe The Sandman, because that kept on, getting picked up and then cancelled and all that. And Why the Last Man had a very similar journey. He went through several different showrunners and scripts and all sorts, and even different TV networks to get this off the ground. But we finally have it. Why the Last Man is coming from FX on Hulu, and we get our very first trailer of this. It will be premiering on September 13th on Hulu. We'll discuss in a minute of where we think we're going to be able to watch it over here in the UK. But Tom, what are your overall thoughts of this trailer? And also, what is your connection to the comic series Why the Last Man?
Well, to the trailer, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. I think the production value on it looks insane. It definitely looks like bigger scope than I thought that maybe they'd be able to pull off. Just the trailer just grabbed me right from the start, and it seems to be capturing the like soul of the comic quite well. I mean, right down to the fact we got Ampersand the monkey. I mean, that's got to be enough to make people watch. But yeah, the comics written by Brian K. Vaughan are some of the best comics you can get, really. I mean, it was a very much beloved series. I know I loved it first time reading it. I'm probably going to have to reread it before the series comes out. We won't go too much into the comic because we don't know how faithful the adaptation is going to be, so we don't want to like spoil things. And there's like a lot of things in there which like, basically I think this is probably going to be the next big thing, maybe, if they pull it off as well as I think they have. Now obviously things could change. We could watch the pilot and maybe be okay, it's still good, but but I don't know, I've just got a feeling it's going to grab a lot of people's attention. And I think if you're not aware of it, you should make yourself aware of it, because it's just the story to it is so interesting. I mean, should we just like delve into the basic? Yeah, we can, because it was in the trailer, the basic premise. So basically just there was it was a virus, wasn't it? It was a virus.
Yes, I can't remember exactly. It was a virus where all the Y chromosome killed everything with a Y chromosome.
Yeah, right down to the sperm. Mm-hmm. Which is a detail that I love.
And I just want to make this clear. Not all men, every living thing. So that's all animals as well.
Yeah, so just imagine if you're just going around your day and every living thing with a Y chromosome just like drops dead violently, just coughing up blood. Planes falling from the sky, things exploding. I mean, we see in the trailer they're talking about like every nuclear reactor in the world is just like overloading. It's like insane, the amount, like it's a nightmare scenario for the apocalypse. But then obviously, as we get from the title of the show, there is one final man and his monkey. They are the last hope for all of humankind. But yeah, just the comic is stellar. The trailer looks stellar. I'm very, very excited for this. I mean, the fact that it's pulling my attention firmly away from like upcoming Marvel and DC stuff, like the trailer, like definitely pulled me in. I'm just like, okay, this is something everyone needs to pay attention to. This could be like everything Game of Thrones was meant to be in terms of cultural impact.
Wow.
Maybe.
Big claim. Big claim.
Big claim.
No, yeah. As for the comics, like this falls, Why the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan falls under the era of Vertigo where they were just untouchable. Do you know what I mean? Like, the 90s going into the early noughties, where everything they were doing, like Sandman, Preacher, Why the Last Man, Swamp Thing, that was in the 80s, but, it bled over into the 90s. But still, and Constantine, like all...
Animal Man,
yeah. It was just incredible. It was one of the greatest runs for like a comic publisher ever. R.I.P. Vertigo, because...
Yeah.
I'm
still bitter.
Yeah, I'm still salty about that. But I move on. So yeah, like it was an incredible comic, and like on the premise that you described it, I would also say to somebody like to keep you going along, it's effectively a post-apocalyptic road trip where you're effectively just traveling through America and at the same time talking a lot about philosophical ideas about, war and, society, political, structures, all that sort of deep stuff. And, in modern climate in 2021, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's even more relevant now than what it was when it first came out. Not just obviously the virus and all that sorts of stuff, but stuff with the big Me Too movement we've had, where this is just a stacked female cast within this. Now, obviously, the books are most apart from Uric, they are all women, but it's just incredible. The actors like Diane Lane, who's playing Senator Jennifer Brown. My God, what a casting choice! And again, we don't want to spoil anything, but she is a very important character in the series. So definitely check that. And Ashley Romans as Agent 355 as well. Incredible.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that in particular.
Yeah, and in the trailer, like, she's doing some badass action and stuff like that. And the trailer, like, it just looks gorgeous, man. Like Dave was saying about Sweet Tooth, like, how is this a TV series? In a way, I'm like, it's like, wow, like, they've gone for it. Like, the scale of this series is massive. Some of those shots where you see, like, the desolate post-apocalyptic landscapes and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
just like empty city with just
gorgeous,
just wide.
Absolutely gorgeous. Now, granted, obviously a lot of it's CGI, but still, for a TV show, that's cinema level CGI stuff going on there. So, really fun. The way they also did all the CGI for Ampersand is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, it could have worked a bit more, but it is just the trailer. We'll see what it plays out in the series. It's got all this intense action. It's a man's world, the song going on in the background, even though it's not a man's world anymore.
Yeah. I liked that choice, but I was kind of sat there going, like, it's a good choice for a song, but also it's not. It's
that contrast, in it, of that the irony, you could say. So yeah, I'm all for it, man. September 13th cannot come soon enough. The only thing is that its effects on Hulu. I don't know, because I'm still, like, we are definitely getting some Hulu shows on Disney Plus, but it seems a bit unclear we don't get all the shows. That's the thing. Some shows are not on Disney Plus, but some are. So I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, this is going to be one of them that is on Disney Plus.
I hope so. It feels like a bit of a misstep if they don't, because there's going to be plenty of people over here who are going to want to watch it. And if they make people resort to pirating, then they're losing out on a lot. So hopefully they will be releasing it on Disney Plus, but we'll have to wait and see between now and September 13th. You'd think they would have announced by now, but whatever.
We don't know. And the last thing I'll say about this is that, for certain audience members who maybe who say that they're getting tired of, cape shit, you could say, this is what keeps the genre, well, it's not even a genre, it's just the medium of comic books and these types of stories alive in TV and film, is by trying different things like this. And I really appreciate them exploring now a lot of the indie stuff. So, like we've seen with The Boys and stuff like that, I'm hoping this can be a really popular show that people go, wow, this is from a comic book? I'm like, yes, and here's the book. You know what I mean? Because I always find some sort of joy when you tell somebody, oh, this is based off a comic book, and they go, really? There's
I get a kick out of that as well.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because for some people, they're like, this is from a comic book? I thought that was only superheroes. You're wrong.
It's a common misconception.
For more information on that, check out our Collecting and Celebrating Comics episode with Michael G.
Yes. Love that episode.
All right, so let's move on to our next story then. This is a bittersweet story, you could say. Melissa Benoist says farewell to Supergirl. She posted a picture on her Instagram on her last day of shooting the final season for Supergirl season 6. Yep, season 6. And it's her with Martian Manhunter, Brainiac in the background. It looks like a PA with a mask on and some lunch boxes.
And her sister Alex.
I was actually going to ask you for confirmation on that, as I have not watched the series up until
I have not watched it since she's apparently suited up. So like I'm looking at that, I'm just like, when did that happen?
Now, we don't usually talk about the CW on here just because it's just a machine that just keeps on plowing through. It's just so much content to cover. So, but I figured this is quite a end of an era. It's something that I think we should bring up. She has played Supergirl for 6 years. I mean, how many actors can say they've played a superhero for that long, really, especially in TV? So I think it's something to be celebrated. She's obviously got plans down the future for what she wants to do, different creative endeavors. So I'm obviously not going to hold that against her. That's what you should do as an artist. But at the same time, yeah, it is, like I said, bittersweet that it has come an end of an era for Melissa Benoist as Supergirl. Now, I've sort of left CW, like it was around where was it around? I think it was around season 3, season 4 of that era of CW, where I was like, of Supergirl, I should say, like, oh, okay, I'm backing out now. But Tom, you're more familiar, you're a bit more update than me. What are your thoughts on Melissa Benoist's legacy as this character and this funny little photo? I just keep looking at like the PA in the background with like those boxes.
Yeah, she's got an important job to do. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I kind of dropped off the CW stuff after Crisis on Infinite Earths, with the exception of Arrow, just because I don't know. I think it was just it felt like a fitting end, and then just like loads of bad news kept coming out about like shows ending and actors leaving or being fired. But I've always had a soft spot for Supergirl. When her show first started on, I'm sure it was CBS. It was there were definite issues with it, but I still had, it was a guilty pleasure of mine. I mean, it still had great moments. Like it had Martian Manhunter first revealing himself, which, let me tell you, when I first watched that episode, I can tell you for a fact that no one saw that coming. No one, and not just the fact that, like, oh, it's Martian Manhunter. No one thought you would see Martian Manhunter on a live action TV series. It was just, it was incredible to see. So the fact they pulled that off, I was disappointed they didn't do more with Maxwell Lord, because I love him in the comics and he kind of disappeared after season 1. But Melissa as Supergirl was always fantastic. Whether the scripts were bad, she always shone in the role. She brought the character to life in a brilliant way. She really embodied the character from the comics in a lot of ways. And it is sad to see her go. Obviously, she's decided it's time to move on. I'm not sure what her reasons are, but I'm sure, she might have work coming up. I'm sure she's recently had a kid, so that might have something to do with it, maybe. She's dating He-Man. That's just something worth mentioning. Supergirl's dating He-Man.
Married to He-Man.
Married. Yes, they got married. Yes. But no, it is sad to see her go, because like I said, her seasons were always like hit and miss, with the exception of season 4. She was the only Arrowverse show to have a good season 4. It was stellar.
I actually thought Supergirl got better as it went on throughout the season.
It did. It constantly got better. I mean, it was just it was one of those shows that just like it kept like, even when I wasn't a fan of it, I just kept going back to it because I was like, but it's Supergirl. So the fact that it is now gone, and like you said, it does seem like the end of an era, because I mean, Arrow's obviously gone, and Batwoman is inexplicably still going, despite huge plot contrivances that they have to do to force it to keep going.
Let's not get into that.
the Flash is like honestly so close to ending. I think,
pun intended. It's running out of legs. That one.
It is. It really, really is. Obviously, Superman and Lois is a complete departure from what the CW has usually done. It's standing very much on its own, and past the fact that it's the same Superman and Lois Lane, doesn't really share any connections to the CW. So it does seem like an end of the original Arrowverse, like proper. So to see the last of the old guard, as it were, I mean, obviously Barry Allen is still the old guard, but like it is just, it's sad to see her go, but I wish her luck in her future endeavors, whatever she chooses to do. And maybe, hopefully, we can see Martian Manhunter again in some other project, maybe a film, maybe directed by a certain someone, continuing on from a recent film that people may have seen. Don't know.
Yeah. Little indie movie came out.
Little
Justice
tiny,
League.
yeah.
One can hope. One can hope. No, yeah, I think as well, like, considering that we've rarely had much Supergirl content come out, like, we did have that not very good film in the 80s. Let's just say that. It wasn't very good. So, when I think of live action Supergirl, I think of Melissa Benoist. She is now implanted herself in my sort of image of Supergirl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she is to Supergirl what like Linda Carter is to Wonder Woman, really. I mean, she's like, despite, obviously Gal Gadot has made the role her role, for a lot of people, Linda Carter is Wonder Woman. And it's going to be the same here. Like, No matter how many Supergirls they have in the future, I think for a lot of people for many years to come, when they hear Supergirl, as you said, they'll think of Melissa, and rightly so.
It's important, man, because also, boys as well, but mainly, a lot of girls look up to her as a role model. And if you look at a lot of the sort of female superheroes that we've had in live action, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, they are all very empowering, but there's a bit of grit to them. Do you know what I mean? And there's something to be said about, the symbol of the super family, Superman and Supergirl. She still brings this element of warmness and kindness, which, you don't get much in a lot of superheroes these days. That's why I think the super family is still very important on what it stands for, and Supergirl is a big part of that. We're going to get Sasha Calle in the Flash movie. I'm very much intrigued to see what she's going to do there. But by the looks of it, it's going to be a very different take on Supergirl. But when I think of classic Supergirl, it's always going to be Melissa Benoist. So, yeah, end of an era, and good luck to you on your future endeavors.
Yes.
All right, so we'll get into our final story before we take a quick break. And, hey, Tom, do you want to hear a Deadpool update?
I would love to hear a Deadpool update.
So, several weeks ago, it was officially confirmed that Deadpool is in the MCU. With that hilarious video that Ryan Reynolds uploaded of him dressed up as Deadpool talking to Korg. Obviously played by Taika Waititi in Ragnarok and the Avengers films. Reviewing the Free Guy trailer. Honestly, this video reminded me of when the first Deadpool came out, because the marketing for that first Deadpool is probably some of the best marketing I've ever seen for a film. Like, it was incredible what Ryan Reynolds and the marketing team came up with, because it was flawless, because they had several videos like this. And this was just Ryan Reynolds being himself, being Deadpool. And going back, did you check out my last video where I reviewed Cruella? And he goes, where the fuck are the dogs?
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. He's a comedic genius.
That's what I mean. And he's got the balls to say that, because now he's, a Disney character, and he's calling out Cruella. Free Guy is a Disney film because they bought it off Fox. And it's just like, oh, this is just amazing irony. I love it. I love it so much.
We've seen an MCU superhero say fuck. That's marvelous.
Yes, but it was beeped in the trailer. I'll get the video. It was beeped, but in my head, but yes. Anyway, so in that as well, because there's all this marketing and promotion for Ryan Reynolds' next movie, Free Guy, which comes out very soon. Well, actually, comes out this week. So I'll try and check that out. So
I have Limitless now, so I may as well go and see it.
You may as well, yeah. So one of these interviewers was asking him, naturally, Deadpool's going to come up in conversation if Ryan Reynolds is in the room. So they asked him about what's, the chance of Deadpool getting off the ground within the MCU. And this is what Ryan Reynolds had to say. He says, quote, a percentage chance? I don't know. I couldn't assign a percentage to that. I'd say it's 50-50 maybe. We're really actively developing it and getting into it. Pretty good shape. What the hell? What the hell month is it? August? Oh, next year. Probably pretty damn good. I'd say 70%. Very Ryan Reynolds the way. And then he also talked about the writing process. So I say, quote, it's something that is just the daily process. Writing is kind of like that. You've got a lot of time to do it and walk away. And I'm working with Molly Nexus on it. It's been great. They're incredibly talented and so smart. They so understand that world and know how to zig when everyone's expecting a zag. So it's been a lot of fun. So, Tom, you hear these quotes from Mr. Reynolds about, the writing process, and also him just going, oh, when next year? Yeah, probably next year. That's for me. I'm just like, oh, fuck, that's soon.
Yeah.
It also seems to me like it feels like it's in the MCU, but, like Kevin Feige and co have just gone, Reynolds, you just work on the film. And when it's done, we'll release it. We'll figure out a spot to put it. Like, it feels like it's within the MCU, but almost like detached, if you know what I mean. It's not part of Kevin Feige's grand plan.
Maybe to quote Amy Pascal that one time, maybe it's MCU adjunct.
Adjunct, yes.
I will never stop referencing that because it was so hilarious at the time.
It was.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, it is. If he's saying it could be released next year, like even if we give it...
He didn't say release. He said start shooting next year.
Oh, start shooting. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense then. But yeah, if he's going to be starting to shoot next year, even if he starts like November, December time, we could see the film a lot sooner than maybe previously thought. And yeah, just like my interest in it though is, I mean, because obviously like you do let Ryan do his own thing with Deadpool. You don't want to like meddle too much. I'm sure Feige isn't going to be meddling too much, but it's just like is it actually going to play into the MCU? Because like, to be honest, that seems like the source of like so many jokes he could be telling, just the fact that obviously now he's owned by Disney. But yeah, it's just like, because surely you want to bring Deadpool into more MCU films because like he is a cash cow. I mean, you put Deadpool in something, people are gonna... I mean, imagine if they finally do a Spider-Man Deadpool team-up film.
Hey, man, I'm hoping for Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe.
I'm hoping for that as well. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to see like how connected it's going to be to the MCU, or if at all. And also, if it is connected to the MCU, what other mutants might we see in the film that could then be confirming that there are more? I mean, we've already had like one kind of confirmed mutant sighting in the MCU. I mean, technically, we see a guy in Black Widow who the character he is does become a mutant, but we don't know if he's a mutant in the film. Ursa Major, in case you didn't pick up on that, Jake. But yeah, that's just what's piquing my interest. I mean, like, obviously my main interest is seeing more Deadpool, seeing more Ryan Reynolds, because he's just so fun in the role. He's literally perfect for the role. But yeah, beyond the obvious things of that, I am just interested, like, what other X-Men, if any X-Men or any mutants they may bring into it, and how connected it's going to be to the MCU, and whether the film will have any implications for future films. And also, please give me Spider-Man Deadpool.
Yes, everybody wants Spider-Man Deadpool. You might have to be careful with the romance element of it, though, because, yeah, it's especially if it's Disney. Do you know what I mean? You don't want that.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, they'd have an excuse to keep Josh Brolin around if they just went, do you want to play? Do you want to be Cable?
Yes.
Because then if they keep him around and then they're just like, hey, we fancy bringing Thanos back. Hey, Josh, do you mind just hopping into the booth seconds?
Hey, with the multiverse, we could get another Thanos at some point.
Not even with the multiverse, man. Thanos is notoriously hard to kill. And also, this is still relevant because Thanos does have a long-standing rivalry with Deadpool. So, this is relevant. But yeah. Just
Zip it, Thanos!
Oh, I would love to see that. Just like Thanos versus Deadpool, and just, they're just arguing over Lady Death. I need that film.
You see that Reynolds, with like those little cartoons coming in.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would. I mean, yeah, like you, I'm just so intrigued. Like, out of all the Marvel films coming out, the three I'm most intrigued by are Wakanda Forever, just because, obviously, for reasons of how they're going to structure that film. Blade, because that's just really intriguing how they're going to bring him into the MCU. I'm also intrigued how they're going to make that PG-13.
Also Mahershala Ali.
But this is another one, because I'm just like, you could actually have so much fun with that very idea of, is this in the universe? Is this not in the universe? You could play with that and make it part of the humor, because in the first Deadpool, like Deadpool jokes about the Fox X-Men universe. He's like, all right, we're going to take you to the professor. McAvoy or Stewart? These timelines are so confusing. He's playing to that, the fact that the Deadpool films were in neither of those worlds, you could say, because we don't really, because it's a different Juggernaut and different Colossus and all that. So, but at the same time, it is. So that's why I think you could have a lot of fun with the Deadpool character. He's one of those few characters where you could do that. And obviously he breaks the fourth wall, self-referential. I would love for him to be in another film where, keep the Deadpool film rated R, because that's what it should be. And I think Feige and co understand that. But I understand if you want to have him pop up in other Marvel films, it has to be PG-13. I totally understand that. But you could also play to that. He could be like, what? Oh, right. I can't in this film. Like,
yeah, I've actually seen it was like a very old Tumblr post from years ago, but it always does the round where it has that suggestion where just it's an Avengers film or whatever, or the X-Men, and Deadpool's there, and he just he knows that because it's PG-13, he only gets to drop one F-bomb, one, and he's just he keeps building it up, and then you can just have someone like Wolverine just say, Deadpool, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's just no, you got to do it. Ever since I've read that, I've just been that would actually be amazing.
Oh, God.
And I would love that.
Can you imagine the potential for jokes of putting films on Disney Plus instead of cinemas as well? Oh, my God. God. I'm just thinking
Can you imagine if Reynolds lands Jackman?
Oh, my God. That would be something.
I'm holding out hope.
I mean, that it could happen. I don't think it will, but I'm holding out hope for a hero.
I mean, he's got that Disney money now, so it might be.
He does. Be like, yo, Hugh, come on now, one last time.
This is Disney money. This isn't Fox money, mate. This is Disney money.
This is Disney and Fox combined. Not wrong though. Not wrong. So yes. As you can tell, people, we're very excited for the possibility and potential for Deadpool 3 in the Marvel Universe, but we'll see. We'll see when it comes. As you said, it's still in the writing process, so we'll see. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for our main story.
You gotta be kidding me. You're gonna risk the entire mission for a mental defective dressed as a court jester.
This coming from a guy that wears a toilet seat on his head.
We don't leave one of our own behind.
Hopefully Harley's still alive.
No funny business, Colonel. These are dangerous people.
Team 2 is clear to go.
Fire up. 3, 2.
What are you guys doing?
What?
We're here to save you.
You were gonna save me?
It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
That's patronizing.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, and we're back for our main story now. And this story has been the main story you've been seeing throughout the week on social media, I'm sure. So last week, the Suicide Squad opened in the US in their cinemas and also, as with expected, on HBO Max day and date. And unfortunately, it had a very underwhelming box office, pulling in only $26.5 million in US domestic, $45.7 million internationally for a global debut of $72.2 million. Now, this is actually incredibly underwhelming when you take into consideration the hype behind this film. It was $185 million, the production budget of this film. I also found out that to market this film, WB spent $100 million to market this film. So, people also forget that marketing costs cost a fuckload of money, man. $100 million is nothing to sneeze at.
I mean, that money is the reason why you keep seeing the Suicide Squad everywhere before, the film, everywhere, posters, adverts,
and during
everything.
And after. So
yeah, interviews, just everything you could think of to keep it in your eye. That's where all that money goes. And yeah, as you said, that's a disappointing return so far.
It is, and the thing is that a lot of articles and a lot of people on the internet, everyone's got their opinions, and no one is. I think some people that are saying the bad taste of Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey still linger in audience houses. I don't believe that personally. I don't think that's a factor. If it is, it's very, very small. And it's a different director, all these sorts of different things. There's a lot of aspects where I don't quite buy into that. However, there are a lot of factors which I do think are affecting this box office performance. Number one, surprise, surprise, releasing the film on HBO Max on opening day. Now, at the beginning, well, last year, I should say, when they announced they were going to do this, I was like, it's just not going to work. You're going to kill the potential box office of these films. Granted, some films were not as effective. Godzilla vs. Kong actually did quite well in the box office. However, a lot of the films haven't done well, and look at Suicide Squad, it just hasn't done well. Granted, there's also more factors. In America, I hate bringing up this, but it is a real factor of the world we live in now. The coronavirus, the pandemic is heating up again in the US. The Delta variant is spreading quite rapidly, and that is going to be a big factor in people going out to the cinema in crowded things, especially on opening weekend of a big blockbuster like this. People are going to be hesitant. So I'm not going to put shame people on that. You do you. If you don't feel safe, you have the absolute right to go, no, I'm not going to go to... You have that right and to feel safe. So...
Yeah, because I think the COVID situation in America has changed quite a bit since, like, say, Black Widow. If Suicide Squad had debuted around the time Black Widow did, probably would have done a bit better. But we don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, but then it would have been competing against Black Widow. So
that's the thing then, yeah.
It's just, Dave's brought this up before. Unfortunately, Suicide Squad, while it wasn't a delayed film like all the other ones, unfortunately, its release date has just been sort of lumped in with all the other backlog of delayed films like Black Widow, Fast and the Furious 9, and all these other big blockbusters. So that's also a factor on it as well, the fact that people are not going to the cinema as often to see these things. Do you know what I mean? Especially if they have the ability to watch it at home on HBO Max or Black Widow on Disney+. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, there's just a lot of factors going on there. There is a separate part to the story that we'll get into in a second, but Tom, what do you make of Suicide Squad's box office and, some of the factors I brought up, or do you think there's anything else that could be affecting this?
Yeah, it is. I was very surprised to see the figures initially, just because, I don't know, just the film seemed to have everything going for it. It had an amazing marketing campaign. Maybe it wasn't like quite the marketing campaign the first film had, but as I was saying, it was still in your face that the Suicide Squad was coming. I feel like as well, like the focus of the marketing was on how, like, if you didn't like the first Suicide Squad, don't worry, this isn't like that one at all. Which is why I don't buy as well the whole, like, the original leaving a bad taste in your mouth. Because also, if you've got James Gunn there, he's delivered 2 solid films with Marvel. So you have faith in him.
And they use that in the marketing. The director of Guardians of the Galaxy. So
yeah, they were very, very heavy on that. So yeah, just like, it's just unfortunate, I think, that a lot of these things have gone wrong. I think, as you said, releasing on HBO Max like day and date was a mistake, because that was always going to kill its like profitability in the box office. Always, because as you said, if people at the moment can have the option to sit at home and watch something, because think about it this way as well, is that like, it's a small thing, but
for free as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is a big thing as well. At least Disney Plus put a price tag on it. But also as well, I think with a lot of people, small thing, but TVs are a lot bigger nowadays than they were back when I was younger. So for some people, just they think my TV's big enough for a film, cinema screen's too big, I can watch it for free here, and I don't have to spend shit tons of money on popcorn and drink.
I get it. I get it
as well, because these are reasons why I would always find excuses not to go to the cinema, just like the cost of it, or just like having to go get there. But yeah, like I was kind of hoping, like with all these films coming out now, the box office is opening up and like things kind of getting back to normal, that maybe we'd see like a resurgence in numbers. I was definitely thinking Suicide Squad would do better, just because the hype, as I said, the hype behind it, the marketing, the fact that like it scored a fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it was like at least briefly sitting at 100%.
I think it's currently the highest rated DCEU movie.
Yeah, I think so currently. So it had everything going for it. So just, I think the blame for its box office performance has to go with, as you said, the Delta variant picking up again, especially in the States, and the fact that they gave people the opportunity to watch the movie for free. I mean, even if people really wanted to see it in the cinema, a lot of people, if they get the option to watch something for free, they're going to go, I wanted to see it on the big screen, but
reasons,
and as well, because of all the coronavirus thing over the past couple of years, people's pockets are a little tighter now as well, which also has to be taken into account. So Yeah, it's just sad though, because I was really hoping that like a really good box office performance would like help spur on, like make WBC. Okay, so if we take more risks, we get higher rewards. Let's actually start like putting out some good films now. Not to say that they haven't put out good films, but obviously, like compared to say like Marvel, they have been way less consistent. Though you could argue that the best of DC is maybe better than the best of Marvel, but that is obviously going to change person to person.
That's a whole nother argument on the internet,
whole
right
other
there.
argument. Yeah. Should I mention the Dark Knight? Someone eventually mentions the Dark Knight.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah. No, it is. It's very disappointing. There's a lot of factors involved in this, and like we said, the day and date thing was probably not the best decision. It seems Warner Brothers have learned their lesson, because the second part of this story is that Warner Brothers have now struck a deal with AMC Theaters that will see the studio respect an exclusive 45-day theatrical window in 2022, following its temporary day and date experiment in 2021. So AMC boss Adam Aaron had this to say. He said, "We're especially pleased Warner Brothers has decided to move away from the day and date." And he also noted that AMC is in active dialogue with every major studio, adding that an exclusive window is an important way to build big and successful franchises. Now, naturally, as the owner of AMC Theaters, of course he's going to be saying these things, because he wants people to come back to cinemas so he can earn more money. But at the same time, I do agree with what he's saying. I don't think... I'm also pleased that Warner Brothers is moving away from this day-and-date experiments that they've done in 2021. And I do agree that an exclusive window in the cinema is an important way to build successful franchises. I go back to Dune. That needs to have a really successful box office and hype around the film for them to continue making that. If it doesn't get its return, it will not get made. And that goes for any big franchise, especially new franchises and new IP that, you know, people complain a lot about, all we're getting is Marvel and superhero films. Well, you don't give the effort to the new films that come out, though. So I always have to put out like, well, have you seen like the latest new sci-fis and stuff like that? No, I haven't. Well, there you go. So that's part of the problem. So I think people, you know, the theatrical window is really, really important for that. It's 45 days. So I am disappointed that they have dropped it, because the usual theatrical window is 90 days. It's 3 months before it then goes to, you know, digital or Blu-ray, whatever, physical, whatever like that. So it is shortened to half, 45 days. I'll accept that. Do you know what I mean? Because at least it's something. But at the same time, I'm like, as a cinephile, as someone who loves to go to the cinema, who tries to see every film I want to see first in the cinema, it is slightly disappointing for me that this seems like another step back for cinemas. And I don't know, man. It's just this ever-changing landscape of streaming and all this sort of stuff. It's disheartening, and like, absolutely, we're getting great content on streaming, but at what cost?
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you there. It's a really difficult topic, because, like, on the one hand, I love streaming and the freedom it's given us and the content it's given us and the possibilities that it's opened up. But I also really don't like what it has done to cinema. Because, I mean, some of my best memories of watching things have been watching them in the cinema and seeing them on that scale. Like, sure, I can sit at home, make myself some snacks and watch the Lord of the Rings extended editions on a big 4K TV and love it. But it's not going to be the first time I watch The Last Match of the Ents on the big screen. It's not going to capture that. Like for example, if I watched Lord of the Rings like for the first time on a big screen TV, sure, I would have loved it, but seeing it in the cinema it's just something extra. It's something you can't quite like quantify. It's quite a spiritual experience.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I also wanted to say that, you know, I don't know if you saw James Gunn's comments about him saying, well, movies live on through TV, through repeat viewings and stuff like that. And he went on to say that he's never seen Jaws in the cinema. He's only seen it through TV, and it's his favorite film, or one of his favorite films. While I do agree with him to some sense, you know, it's different because I think now we're in a different landscape of Hollywood and how films are sort of measured. Not like successful in terms of like critically acclaimed, but on box office. You know, it is the movie business. A lot of it is based on numbers and how much these movies bring in. So I do agree with him that movies do live on, but you do need a return if you want franchises to continue and to evolve. The one I point to is Blade Runner, where it was it didn't do well at the box office at all. Absolutely, it grew into a cult following, and people love that film now. But when they made the sequel, that didn't earn any money either. So there's something to be said there about, you still need a big opening for people to come out in packs to see this film for it to be a successful franchise. And, at this rate, I don't know now if Warner Brothers are going to go, let's make another Suicide Squad.
Yeah, you hope they would. You hope they would just go like, look, there were very valid reasons for it not performing well. Perhaps in a better climate, a sequel would do well. But at the same time, if they did turn around and say, yeah, we're not doing another one, could you really blame them? Really? I mean, from my perspective, sure, if I was working at Warner Brothers, I would like to think that I'd just be like, no, we must keep this alive. But
not if your job's on the line.
Exactly. If your job's on the line, money's getting tight, you're going to be like, all right, we can't afford to risk another failure. Let's do something safe, like another Batman film. Let's just keep doing Batman.
Never stop. That's not going out on HBO Max day and date.
Ooh. I can't imagine Matt Reeves would have been happy about it, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's shorter than the original 90 days thing, and to me, there's a lot of people I know who would just be willing to wait that 45 days. Mm-hmm. If you put it at 90 days, then a lot of those people might be convinced to go and see it in the cinema and spend their money. But if it's you're talking a month and a half. A lot of people are going to be like, I can live with waiting and just watching it on Disney Plus. And again, like with James Gunn's comments, whilst I understand what he's saying, it goes back to my points that okay, so Jaws is his favorite film. He's never seen it in the cinema. Imagine how much he would have loved it if he saw it for the first time in the cinema. Imagine the experience you would have had seeing that. So whilst he makes a valid point, cinema is just, it needs to survive.
I would say even films I've seen not for the first time in the cinema, like for example, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? And the majority of that time, the original trilogy anyway, has been on television. Do you know what I mean? But I remember going to see The Empire Strikes Back live in orchestra, which was fucking amazing, and seeing it on the big screen is a total different experience. And I was like, this is arguably the best experience I've had watching this film, and this is a film I've seen thousands, hundreds of times. So
yeah, same with me. I mean, the example I can use is when I went to that Marvel MCU marathon before watching Age of Ultron, because there were a few films in that watch through which I would have watched the first time on TV, not in the cinema, like the first Captain America film. I think the first Iron Man film I initially saw on DVD, not in the cinema. And then seeing those films in the cinema, watching it was a whole different experience, and I loved it so much more. And it even beforehand, I didn't actually rate the first Captain America film that highly. I thought it just felt like a long trailer, and to be honest, that is kind of what it is. But when I was watching it in the cinema, I was just like, this may just be a very long trailer, but my God, it's the best long trailer I've ever seen in my life.
It just hits different, man.
It does. It really, really does. Plus popcorn.
Yeah. Although bring your own, because, I understand if people are complaining about concession prices, because fucking hell, yeah, they're expensive.
They are, but popcorn.
Yeah, anything else? Any final words on this then before we go to our pull list?
Don't kill the cinema. That's my final words on this. Yeah, I'm just hoping that it does seem like Warner Brothers have learned the right lessons from this whole saying day and date release thing. Which is it's rare to see Warner Brothers learning the right lessons from something.
We'll see. To be decided.
Yeah,
to be confirmed.
See.
Yeah.
You'll watch now. We'll get to the end of this 45-day experiment, and they're gonna be like, we're gonna go back to 90 days.
Yes. See
how that works out for us. But yeah, it's sure, they're saying here, like, look, we're bringing back an exclusivity window to the cinemas so we can help cinemas survive. And it's like, right, okay, then why are your most interesting projects going on HBO Max only?
Let's not get into that. That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother can of worms. Yeah.
Have they learned nothing?
Frustrating.
They've learned nothing, Jake.
Yes, it's frustrating. But you know what? The only thing I can say is, listeners out there, if you haven't seen the Suicide Squad in the cinema yet, do yourself a favor. If you're feeling safe, go and watch this in the cinema, because it is quite the film to experience on the big screen. That's all I can say, really, in regards to that.
Fuck, that's true. A little reference for those of you who've actually seen the film.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Right. Let's get into a more interesting and happy discussion then. Our weekly comic pull list.
Well, after X-Men hit at the box office, all the studios started buying up every comic property they could get their dirty little hands on.
We say weekly, though we haven't seen it in 5 weeks, but it's back.
It's back, baby.
Yes, and it's bigger than ever, because this week I know, listeners, you're going to be blown away by this, but the majority of my picks this week are from DC. They are having a strong week this week. I know usually I've struggled to get one or even two recommendations, and I apologize for that. But I think the Infinite Frontier stuff is starting to pick up, because they did initially cut down their output after the events of... I always forget if it was Death Metal or Dark Metal, the second one.
Death Metal.
Death Metal was the second one, yeah. Which I actually think was good, that they kind of limited their outputs to kind of, because there was a lot of changes in the multiverse wise. So if we start off with all our DC picks, so my first pick from DC this week is Wonder Woman issue 777. That's right, there's been that many Wonder Woman comics.
Love it.
Should be more. I mean, if Detective Comics and Action Comics have made it to 1,000, why hasn't Wonder Woman? But we'll get there one day. In this series, Diane has kind of been taking a trip across the multiverse, and this week she's landed on Earth 11. Now, why I'm recommending this is because they're introducing a character on this Earth 11 called Wonder Man. He is this big, huge, beefy guy, massive beard, full of muscles. Now, you might think, well, clearly he's going to be, wearing some variant of the Wonder Woman costume. No, he's just wearing the Wonder Woman costume as it is, with the skirt and all. This big, huge tank of a guy is wearing a tiara. The skirt, it looks fantastic. But very much wearing a skirt, and more power to him.
Yeah, right on,
so
man.
that's my... Yeah, and I mean, Wonder Woman has become a very important... I mean, she's always been a very important part of the DC mythos anyway, but since the events of Death Metal... Well, I mean, she's like one of the most important characters now, and her trip through the multiverse is definitely something you want to be picking up.
She is queen.
She is queen. And sticking with DC and their multiversal madness, Infinite Frontier issue 4 comes out this week. Now, this series has just been telling us what the new status of the DC multiverse is, how all the continuity works now. They have maybe done a better job recently in explaining things than they had initially. And I think that is a testament to Williamson's work. He proved in his Flash run that he can do all this like crazy high concept shit. And he is delivering in this. And if you're not sold on that, the cover of Infinite Frontier promises us that we'll be featuring Flashpoint Batman, Sir Thomas Wayne, and Calvin Ellis Superman. Now that is a pairing that I want to see.
I didn't know I wanted that.
Yeah, neither did I. And then I saw it and I was like, this is all I've ever wanted. And the final DC pick is, I usually pick two from each, big two company. But on this one, I had to add this story in because it is hella important. It's Batman Urban Legends issue 6. Tim Drake has come out as bisexual. It's something that fans have been thinking for years. Don't let the internet naysayers tell you any differently. No matter what they say, the seeds have been planted for this for years. And the fact that we finally got confirmation that, I mean, not just any DC superhero, but a member of the Bat family is bisexual. I mean, I think that's fantastic, to be honest. And I think it was done really, really, really well, I think. So we definitely got to be picking that up. It's a huge moment for Tim Drake. The best Robin Although I shouldn't be saying that because the whole point of this comic is him trying to find an identity past being a member of the Bat family. And good luck to him. Let's hope he finds a better superhero name than his surname. Weird time. Like, I am the Drake. Are you Tim Drake? No. Okay, and swinging on over to Marvel now. I was tempted to do 3 picks from Marvel just to balance it out, but we'll see how we go. First pick is Fantastic Four Life Story, issue 4. Now, if you're aware of what the whole life story thing is, it's just a way of looking at the entire life of famous superheroes. The first one was Spider-Man, and it just showed him. It gives the characters the opportunities to actually age and grow as characters. So Fantastic Four is the second one they've done of that. Issue 4 is out now. It's been really, really good. I'll be honest, I think it doesn't quite top Spider-Man Life Story, but to be fair, I think it's in its own right. It's a very good story, and you want to be picking it up mainly because I want Marvel to do more of these for more characters, because they're fun little, we'll call them Elseworlds, even though that's a DC thing. And sticking with Marvel then, we've got issue 1 of the New Defenders, or rather it's just called Defenders, but it is New Defenders. I mean, this isn't the Defenders you'd know from your Netflix days. This isn't Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. No. This is Doctor Strange. This is Silver Surfer. This is just so many big cosmic characters involved.
I would actually say Doctor Strange. When I think of Defenders, I think of Doctor Strange.
Yeah, no, because like in fairness, he was one of the original Defenders. The team was originally himself, Hulk, Silver Surfer, and Namor was occasionally thrown in there. Sometimes would vary. But yeah, like the whole Luke Cage, like New York City's Defenders thing only came about from Netflix, and then I think Brian Michael Bendis did a Defenders series with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he created Jessica Jones as well, didn't he? So.
He did, and I will always love him for that. No matter how many times I disparage him, like, let's be fair, Bendis, in his day, on his best, he is one of the best. And you know what? I am going to throw in just the last one from Marvel just to even it out, and that's Daredevil issue 33 by Chip Zdarsky, just because Chip's run has been absolutely fantastic. At the moment, we're seeing Elektra suiting up as Daredevil, and I mean, aside from the fact that the costume is just gorgeous, it's just, I love Elektra. I think Chip writes her brilliantly. He's been writing Daredevil brilliantly. It's just, it is one of the best Daredevil runs. Definitely in recent years, maybe even all time. That's down to personal opinion. So running through those again, we've got Wonder Woman issue 777 and the introduction of Wonder Man. We've got Infinite Frontier issue 4, where Bones and Chase are going on a chase throughout the multiverse, and Thomas Wayne, Batman, and Calvin Ellis, Superman team up. Come on. Batman Urban Legends issue 6, where we see some important representation happening and a natural conclusion to a long-standing plot thread for Tim Drake. Don't listen to the naysayers again. Batman Urban Legends issue 6. And then at Marvel, we've got Defenders issue 1, Fantastic Four Life Story issue 4, and Daredevil issue 33. And then I thought, because for DC, we've picked a lot of stuff that's to do with their multiversal goings on, I thought for my classic poll, which we're bringing back for the second time, I'd go for the ultimate classic, and I'd go for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, if you're wanting to get into DC, if you want to understand why Crisis is such a big deal, this is essential reading. It's something I think every comic book fan who is trying to get into comics anyway should definitely read at least once. It's got stellar artwork, it's got stellar writing, and it's one of the biggest stories DC have ever done. And whilst it wasn't the first Crisis DC had, it is essentially the Crisis. When you hear Crisis in DC, you think of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I would definitely look to pick that up at some point. I actually have the complete Crisis on Infinite Earths stacked somewhere here, deluxe edition, with some little notes from the writers and artists and character designs. So yes, just showing that off a little bit.
Yes, I'm very jealous of that edition. I have a measly paperback, but it's still gorgeous. It's still gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah, in regards to your pulls, yeah, I'll be getting a few of the ones that you mentioned. I'm I'm reading Infinite Frontier, so I'll be picking that up. Batman Urban Legends, I'm a couple issues behind. I think I'm on 3 or 4, but I do have 5 waiting for me to be read. And I knew the Tim Drake thing was happening, so I'm looking forward to reading.
Yeah, it has been everywhere since it dropped.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. Life Story Fantastic Four, absolutely. Put a pin on that because I've got a question to ask you about that. And it's also related to Daredevil because I absolutely love Chip's run on Daredevil. I wouldn't go as to say it's my favorite Daredevil run. I think that still belongs to Frank Miller.
Of course.
Personally,
he kind of
defined
got the character.
Yeah.
He defined the character in a way no one else did. And I think Chip is one of the very few writers since Miller to actually use Elektra effectively.
Yes, I agree. Yes. So I would say Zdarsky's a very close second. His run on Daredevil's fantastic. But going back to Life Story, because you said you hope Marvel make more of these, my question to you is who would you pick? Who would be your character to get a Life Story? Because I've got mine.
I've got a few in mind, to be honest. One of them
only
is
pick
Tony
one.
Stark. Oh, I can only pick one? Oh, hang on. Let me retract that Tony Stark one then, whilst I think. No, actually, I think a Tony Stark life story one could be very interesting to see him actually like age and grow. Just because of like all the baggage he's got with his old man, you could probably have some like plot lines there where maybe he has a kid and maybe he's like trying to not become his father, which is a constant plot line anyway in Iron Man. But I don't know. I just think it could work very well with him particularly. I think there's so many characters it would like work with so well, but him in particular. There's other characters I don't think it would work for so well. For example, someone like Captain America, just because like the nature of his powers, he never ages anyway. But you could also, I guess, get some mileage out of that as well if he's just there for like hundreds of years as just the ever-vigilant sentinel of liberty.
Do 12 issues instead of 6, yeah?
Yeah, stretch it out. Could be a really... Oh, that actually, I'm warming to that idea a bit more now. Because I think that could be... I'm changing my answer from Tony Stark to Steve Rogers.
You could have some deep stories about the people closest around him dying while he lives on.
Yeah.
Shit, man. We're onto something.
We are.
My pick, because when you were discussing Fantastic Four Life Story, I thought about this. And I was like, it's got to be Matt Murdock, Daredevil. I think that's just prime for a life story thing, because he's been through some shit. You know what I mean? He's got one of like the toughest superhero jobs in New York a lot of the time, I think.
Let's be honest though, like if they did a Daredevil life story, I feel like to do it proper justice, he'd have to he'd have to die in battle. I think, at the end. Even if he's like ancient, even if he's like 60, 70, he would die in battle. That
final fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
They take each other out. Ooh, that would be so good.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I've got a classic pull, if I could share to the listeners.
Throw it in.
What with the Suicide Squad coming out and James Gunn being very vocal about this, I recommend everyone to check out John Ostrander's run on the Suicide Squad. He had a brief little cameo in the film. He was the one who injected Savant with the little explosive, so that was fun to see him there. So yeah, you can pick up there's the 6 volumes of trade paperback, so it's a long run, but I highly recommend people to check that out if you really enjoyed the Suicide Squad, because it is also a fantastic run.
And he kills off Grant Morrison in it as well, which is because Grant Morrison asked him to, because he was it's a fun story, because Grant Morrison put himself in the comics. He then went to John Ostrander and was just like, right, the thing is now I could appear in other comics. I don't want that, so can you kill me? John Ostrander was like, all right, okay, the writer is now a member of the Suicide Squad, and he gets shot whilst he's typing on a typewriter.
Because why
not? Fucking
not?
Phenomenal. But yeah, John Ostrander's Suicide Squad is the Suicide Squad run. Nothing else compares to it. Yeah. Maybe also check out his Teen Titans while you're at it.
Yeah, why not? On the subject of Marv Wolfman with Crisis as well. So,
and we got Titans season 3 coming soon anyway. So remind yourself how good it can get before you're inevitably disappointed. And this is coming from someone who loves Titans.
And on that bombshell, I think we'll end the show now. So, thank you all for listening to this episode. If you're still with us, we appreciate you coming on board every week, listening to us speculate, discuss, and geek out. But if you want to continue the conversation with us and let us know what you think on the stories we discuss. What do you think of Supergirl? What do you think of Why the Last Man trailer? What did you think of Suicide Squad's box office? Hit us up on Twitter or on Facebook because we're all on the socials. But before we get into all of that, Tom, if they want to hit you up, where can they do?
If you want to hit me up, you can get me on Twitter at GapperBoy. That's GAPPERBOI. Or I'm pretty sure if you just search Comic Book Shogun, I should be there. Because I keep forgetting that's my name. I'm a little quiet on there at the moment just because Jake gave me access to the Cowls Masks socials.
Been killing it.
Yeah. So I keep forgetting to log back onto my Twitter. But yeah, if people start tweeting me, asking me questions, or maybe going like, how dare you say these things, hit me up and I'll just get back on there. I'll happily talk to you. And I'll tell you why you're wrong or why you're right.
Play nice, Tom. Play nice.
Yeah. So yeah, just Twitter's the main one, at Gapperboy. But you'll probably be hearing a lot from me just through the socials anyway. I'm very vocal.
Yes, he is. And we'll get that campaign going to get you to be the 14th Doctor.
Yes.
So you can also find me on Twitter campaigning for Tom to get to be the 14th Doctor at Sweaty Jake and talking about other weird stuff, especially Star Wars with the Bad Batch. I'm so excited for the finale. Yeah, let's not get into that. You can also find me on Letterboxd where you can get all my reviews and ratings and all the films I'm watching at the minute. And as for the show, you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Capes, Cowls, and Masks and shoot us some questions and anything else you'd like. And whether you listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google, or Apple, subscribe and follow us on there. And if you're on Apple, leave us a rating and a review as it all helps us go up in the rankings. But as always, the best thing you can do is spread it around and recommend us to all your geeky and nerdy friends. So thank you for listening. We'll see you all next week. Stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.